Okay, so it's recording right now. Thank you guys for all coming to this call. We have a special guest here. We have a student that's part of a BSMD here in the United States. And before we get started with that, I would just like to introduce myself as well as what Medical Wonders is since we are hosting this. My name is Sonia, and I'm a freshman studying biomedical engineering. I founded Medical Wonders about 2 years ago, and our primary focus is educating and advising the youth on the astounding procedures in medicine, as well as the careers, opportunities, and everything in between. So we have a bunch of calls like these where we have pre-meds or medical professionals come on call and talk about what they do and their journey, since we know a lot of you guys are high schoolers and wondering how to get involved in the medical field. And this call, we are focusing on BSMD, specifically how the application and what it's like and what BSMD programs are. And we have Avi on right now, so I'm gonna give it to him to kind of introduce himself. And the way that this is gonna work is we'll have a presentation that's made by him, and at the end there'll be a section for questions. So if you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the chat, unmute yourself, or anything like that. And then at the end, Avi can either drop his contact info or whatever he prefers to get more accustomed to everything. And also, if you guys want to reach out to him, that's also a thing. So yeah, I'll give it to Avi right now, but thanks Avi for coming on.
Hey guys, thanks Anya for the introduction. My name is Avi Sura, and today I'm going to be giving you guys some advice for the BSMD application process. So what is a BSMD program? It's basically a combined undergraduate and graduate school program offered by a lot of undergraduate schools for high schoolers that are interested in pursuing a career in medicine. And so a lot of schools, including the one I'm currently in, like at RPI, Baylor, NJIT, Rutgers, Stevens, a couple other schools offer a program where you can apply as a high schooler to get into medical school and where you don't have to worry about the actual application process. And a lot of DO and MD schools do this. So a couple things that I think are important to keep in mind for anyone that's interested in applying to the medical field or a BSMD program. These are like the four main things that are the four main factors that I think are super important. So there's service, shadowing, research, and leadership. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've done in the past, and hopefully that'll be of help to you guys. So the first thing I would definitely focus on is service. So the entire field of medicine is about serving people that need help. It's about catering to people's needs and being the people on the front line that give them better quality of life. And so the thing that made me realize that service is really important in this is by volunteering in a hospital setting and realizing the dynamic of a patient care setting and what physicians and other healthcare professionals do in order to best treat their patients. And so, definitely getting some hospital volunteering experience is super important to get firsthand experience in that and to see if this is something that you'd want to be involved in the future. Um, Senior citizen homes are also a great way to expose yourself to the medical field. You'll see the different types of conditions people, especially as they age, face, especially with the growing rate of Alzheimer's and dementia in our country, along with cancers and other therapies that a lot of other patients have. Senior citizens homes are a great way of also seeing the different types of clinical syndromes that patients are currently suffering from. The American Red Cross is a great organization, along with other volunteer organizations that are out there and nonprofits that can expose you to the different ways that you can help patients that are in need in different demographic areas. Shadowing is another great way to get some experience. And I know that because of COVID, it's kind of difficult, but some inpatient and outpatient experience is definitely worthwhile of your time. So by inpatient, I mean in a hospital setting, and outpatient in like a clinic. So some of my experiences in the past have included shadowing a cardiologist when I was in high school, as well as shadowing a pediatrician in both the hospital and in her office. Um, you don't necessarily have to shadow in a certain specialty, but just gaining some experience in an actual patient encounter can expose you to what physicians do on a day-to-day basis and to see if it's something that is worth your time and effort. And it's also some great experience for the future as like you learn the patient physician interaction and you learn how to converse with someone regardless of their, let's say, like socioeconomic background. Research is also super important. um, a lot of science is done through research. The advances that have been made in medicine and science are because of research. And so, understanding and encouraging scientific thinking is what defines medicine and is what allows it to grow. And so, as a high schooler, if medicine is something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend getting involved in research. I did a couple research projects when I was in high school, at Rutgers and at Keene University, as well as at my high school itself. Um, and it definitely gave me some, shed some light on the importance of science and the importance of um, the problem solving, because at the end of the day, each patient is a task that we're going to have to solve in order to give them the better outcome and quality of life. And leadership. Leadership is everywhere. Like you can get involved in leadership anywhere, whether it be in like student government, class council, or any other like outside of school clubs. But displaying any uh, sort of leadership is great for personal development. It shows you how to manage a team, shows you how to take on extra responsibilities, and it gives you great experience in terms of personal growth because you learn how to interact with different types of people. Um, in high school, I was part of my school student government. I was on the I was on the leadership team as a part of like New Jersey's congressional board, um, and it had some leadership with the American Red Cross. Um, and I did some leadership, had a few leadership positions in a couple of nonprofits that focused on providing to those that are underserved. And it taught me a lot about how to stay humble, realize that the privilege that we have, but also how to work in a team setting with people that I might not have expected to interact with at first, and also how to be productive and delegate. Um, and so, leadership, no matter what field you want to go into in the future, is definitely important and something that you should try to get on hands early. And then extracurricular activities. So obviously, medicine is science oriented. So being involved in clubs like Science Olympiad, HOSA, and other medically related club activities is definitely important, because like it will not only build your interest in the field and see if it's something that it's for, to see if if this is for you, but also can give you some like awards and stuff that look good on a college application. So a little bit about the program that I'm in. Um, and just a bit of background about me. Um, I graduated in 2019. I went to JP Stevens High School in Edison, New Jersey, and I chose to go to RPI's 7-year physician scientist program. So it's an accelerated BSMD program between Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and Albany Medical College, where one of the perks of it is that it's guaranteed admission to medical school without having to take the MCAT. And part of the program is focusing on research, which to me was pretty interesting. And I will graduate with an MD with a distinction in research at the end of my 7 years. Um, a couple of the other programs I got into were Temple's 7-year program between Temple University and the Lewis Katz School of Medicine, as well as Rowan University's BSMD program with Rowan University and Cooper Medical School, as well as St. Luke's University's 8-year medical scholars program. And I did interview at NJIT, Rutgers, Stevens, and TCNJ for the NJMS program, but I didn't get into NJMS. And so now, what do I do in college? So one of the perks of being in a BSMD program is that I can do so much more in college that I never would have been able to do as a regular undergraduate applicant. I have so much free time to get involved in other activities and spend my time in things that I genuinely like to do, and I just don't have to show on paper. So that's a really big plus to being in a BSMD program. Um, like I said, I love doing research, and so the past 2 years I've been working in a lab that focuses on Alzheimer's disease and like the effects androgens or male hormones have on Alzheimer's disease, as well as the captain of my school's collegiate Hollywood Fusion dance team, which is something I've always wanted to do since high school. I'm president of my school's Global Medical Brigades, and so this is like a really big service organization that goes like typically, if COVID didn't exist, we would go overseas to help serve in underserved countries like Honduras. But because of COVID, we've been doing a lot of things in our local community as well as virtually. I'm public relations chair for my school's Indian Student Association. I do a lot of work for Colleges Against Cancer, and I'm helping host the Capital Region in New York's relay race. And I'm a science ambassador, so I spend a lot of my time going to local elementary schools and teaching kids about science. And a couple of my future goals, so obviously the plan is to go to medical school. But for my shadowing and research experiences, um, I think it's helped me narrow down the fields that I would like to go into, um, and give me a perspective on what I find interesting. Um, and uh, if that's about it for what I have to say. Does anybody have any questions about anything or want me to go into depth about anything?
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna take questions now. Does anyone have any general questions? If you guys don't feel comfortable like saying it to everyone, you could like send it to either me or Avi. I think there's a spot there. It works like Zoom where you can send it to that individual person. Okay, there's a question. So how did you know that you wanted to like apply to these BSMD programs, and want to apply or be like at least pre-med in high school? So like why not any other type of field that you wanted to go into and apply into college?
Sure, great question. So in high school, I spent a lot of my time doing like science-related activities, and I realized that I wanted to be a physician um, from the interactions I had with other physicians and while volunteering. I realized how much learning is involved in being a physician and how it's a lifelong of learning. And I realized the impact that we have on patients' lives. That when they come to us, they're basically helpless, and a lot of their faith, whether it be of them or their families, is put in our hands. And to be that backbone and to be that support for them to give them a better quality of life is a very like satisfying feeling, and is the reason I want to be a physician so I can help patients in that manner.
Sounds good. Someone asked in the chat. So you said that you did research in high school. A lot of people are trying to get research opportunities. I guess this person is, and they're not having any luck reaching out. So how did you reach out for like a research opportunity?
Sure. What I did was I wrote up a blind email saying, "Hey, my name is Sura. I go to this high school. I'm really interested in what you're working on, and this is my skill set so far, and I would love to like potentially work with you over the summer." And then I sent out maybe like 100 emails like that. I just went on like Rutgers' website, looked at like the different labs that are available and that of interest to me, and then I just sent emails. And it's a lot of work. It's not going to be easy because you're a high school student and not everyone is as willing to take a high schooler because it's a lot of responsibility on their end. But I got really lucky and I got like 2 yeses out of the 100 people I did email. Um, but I think that's a great way to start, at least just by sending blind emails. And make sure you send like a resume, obviously with the contact information, and customize the email to each person. Like explain why you're interested in doing their research with them. It's pretty easy for people to read through what's a generic blind email that you send to everyone.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Someone else asked, as a high school student, how should we get involved with the American Red Cross?
Um, for the American Red Cross, I worked with it through the local like Edison chapter. There's like chapters in all like counties and um, like districts, and I would just reach out through the American Red Cross website. There's like a contact number too, and just ask like what activities being done in your local region. A lot of what I do also is like independent of like any local organizations. I host a lot of blood drives just independently, by just like emailing people saying like, hey, I want to help out. So there's there's a couple different ways you can get involved. Like you just have to do some Googling, and it's pretty easy to find.
Sounds good. Someone, I think Sophia left something for advice for
Yeah,
research, which is pretty good. Ali, do you want to answer that question? How competitive are the BSMD programs you applied to?
sure. So the RPI's program had 900 people apply. Um, there were 100 people whose applications were forwarded to the med school. Of those, 50 were interviewed, and I think 22 got in for NGMS. And each of the schools, I think, had at least 500 kids apply. 50 kids were interviewed at NGMS, and I think 20 got in. For Temples, 600 kids applied, 15 were interviewed, and 6 got in. And then for St. Louis universities, I think 100 got in, but you're not guaranteed admission to med school, you're just guaranteed an interview. And then for Rowan's, um, I applied for the MD program with biomedical engineering. So there were 100 kids that applied for that, and 3 interviewed, and I think 2 got in, including me.
Okay, sounds good. Um, uh, I don't know about the numbers last year, but it was definitely more. Um, I think last year was a little more because I remember applying, but it still stayed around the same
Acceptance.
percentage, yeah, of getting in. But someone else asked like any advice, I guess, because obviously they're really hard to get into. So I guess what would your one piece of advice be if someone is interested in applying to these programs?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Someone asked, since they're really competitive, what would your one piece of advice be to people that are interested in applying for this and want to stand out and maybe get in?
Um, you have to show passion in what you want to do. Um, don't like do 15 different things and not really go into it. Like I did 5 like major things in high school. Like one of them was working with the American Red Cross. I hosted like 15 blood drives. Um, like every like few months I would do one. Um, because I understood like the importance of blood being donated for the patients in the hospital after volunteering in like the cardiovascular department. Um, I spent a lot of my time volunteering, trying to like learn more about the dynamic that went on in the hospital. And I spent a lot of my time doing research. And you don't necessarily have to do these few things that I'm saying, but um, while there aren't like certain guidelines for what you necessarily have to do, like you do have to fulfill things in these criteria, along with having like really good test scores and um, academic grades in school. Like there is a lot that goes into it, um, and it's a lot of like sacrifice, but just like showing your passion through like your activities is like the main thing I can say to get into these programs. It's very easy to read through who just put something on paper because they want to like try to appeal to these type of programs.
Okay, sounds good. Someone asked, are there programs where if you don't get into a BSMD and you go for your undergrad, you can get like early acceptance or anything like that? And are those worth kind of trying for as well, even if you don't get into a BSMD? So like, what's the plan if you don't get into one, I guess you'd say?
Sure. Yeah, there are a lot of early assurance programs. I know Mount Sinai has one, and I know a few other schools have them. And they're definitely worth applying to. So I know I've talked about the pros of BSMDs, but the con of it is that you're limited to one med school. Um, and so um, applying regularly does take a lot of effort because there are thousands of people that are now also applying. But um, the same things that you do, like I had mentioned, are the same things that you should do in college too, in order to try to get into one of these sort of programs. And it is possible to do early assurance, and I would recommend giving that an attempt if getting into med school is something that you are like striving to achieve.
Okay, sounds good. Someone else said, while with doing research, besides putting it on your application, what are there any other benefits of doing research? Does some of the knowledge or experience from research help you in undergrad or med school?
Yes, it definitely does. Scientific thinking is all about medicine. Like when learning how to take a problem and solve it is all about medicine. And research definitely helps you think more in depth about how these problems like arise. So basic science research is understanding the mechanisms. Translational is trying to figure out how these mechanisms can be made into drugs. Clinical is trying out these drugs so that patients can have a better patient quality of life. Like there's so much that you learn from research about how like to take care of patients. And I think it's super important that every physician or aspiring physician involves themselves in research.
Okay, sounds good. Does anyone else have any other questions? Um, you can like privately send them to me, but yeah. Um, so someone asked, what are the requirements of staying in the BSMD program? So like in the case that you get kicked out, or are there any requirements for any of that?
Yes, there are. So my program requires a 3.5 minimum GPA as well as a 3.5 in just math and science. You know, a lot of other programs require the same. Like I know St. Louis University's is a 3.65. And some programs, my program is unique because it does not require us to take the MCAT. But I know a lot of programs still require you to take the MCAT, but like a minimum score is just still required. Like a competitive score would be like a 512. The program will require to get like a 504. So there are still sometimes requirements.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or concerns?
Feel free to ask.
Yeah.
I don't bite, I promise.
Um, okay, we'll give it like a minute or two, but do you have do you want to share anything else, Avi, or like maybe give some last tip advice for people that are applying or
Yeah, I definitely think that BSMD programs are a great option for those who are interested in going into medicine. It's a lot of work in high school, but the comfort that you get afterwards is very helpful. Um, and medicine is like not an easy field to enter. There's a lot of work, and it's like decades of learning and commitment. Um, and so, if it's something that you're considering, make sure it's something that's right for you by like gaining some experience, whether it be in a hospital, shadowing, or do research. But if you have any other questions, I can leave my email in the chat, or Sonia, if you want to like send it out to other people too. And I don't mind helping at all. With your application, maybe like editing your essays, reading over your Common App, or like giving advice as to what to do in order to try to get it.
hey, yeah, definitely reach out to Avi. He's actually my cousin, so he has helped me a lot last year because I am a freshman in college, and he's helped me a lot. So he's a good person to contact and for resources and stuff. So feel free to reach out to him. Um, if anyone, this is like the last call for questions. If anyone has any questions, you could send it to me or him or to everyone basically. But I left a form just now, a link to a Google form, and that will confirm your attendance, especially if you're a Medical Wonders member. So please only fill this out if you're part of our team in any way, whether you're a member, social media director, a coordinator, anything like that, and you will get an hour through us for attending this call. And yeah, does anyone have any last minute questions? Make sure you guys fill out that form if you are part of our group, so we can give you the hour. But this should be kind of like the end of our presentation and our call.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you so much, Avi, for coming. We'll give it like a minute until just like a minute so everyone can just fill out the form before I end this.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. If you guys have any questions, once again, just email Avi or you can email us at medicalwonders, medical.wonders with two S's at gmail.com. I left the email for our organization. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and we appreciate you taking your time.
Of course.
Okay, bye
Bye,
everyone.
guys.